Hi, everyone. My name is Lou Stierman, and today I will be presenting a slideshow for you on teen suicide, causes, different definitions such as clusters, and prevention. So this is one of my favorite quotes by Nelson Mandela because I'm a big advocate of teaching children empathy, and I feel like this kind of resonates with that theme, where it says, "Our human compassion binds us to the one to the other, not in pity or patronizingly, but as human beings who have learned how to turn our common suffering into hope for the future." So here are some stats that I just kind of compiled up. There are so many stats, it's difficult to even keep track, and it's constantly changing. The one thing that really resonated with me as I researched this more is just how frightening it is with the increase and just in the past few years of teen suicides. It's escalated by 60%. And with this current pandemic and the new stress and isolation and anxiety that teens are feeling, it's just getting worse. So what are some of the demographics of teen suicide? So here are just a few more things. Boys are like 4 times more likely to actually go through with the full act and to die from it. But girls are more likely to attempt it. Guns are used in more than half of all youth suicides. It's right now the second leading cause of death for adolescents ages 15 to 18. It kind of competes with us for second and third every other year or so. Bullying increases suicidal behavior and ideation. No surprise there. And just a few things, like I said previously, teen anxiety, stress, and depression has increased as a result of COVID-19. And this is kind of an interesting fact. It's estimated that about 115 people will be affected by one suicide. And I got that information from a movie that I saw, which I'll discuss later in this presentation. All right, so here's just another graph for you. According to SAMHSA in 2019, 12 million adults age 18 or older reported having serious thoughts of suicide, and 1.4 million adults attempted suicide during the past year. All right, so here are some different phrases and terms that sometimes we hear in the news or on social media. So there's different things. A suicide pact is different than a contagion, and a contagion and a cluster are kind of interchangeable. So a pact is when there's an agreement between people to commit suicide together in a specific way. And this could just be a group of friends, it could be couples, or it could be cults. And one of the most famous one happened, I think, back in the 80s. I have to research that a little bit more. And his name was Jim Jones, and he was in Africa, and he had a huge following, and they all drank a Kool-Aid, and they all died. And so when you hear the term "drink the Kool-Aid," it's always referring to Jim Jones. A suicide contagion is when one suicide impacts vulnerable or impulsive people. So if someone in the community or someone on the news commits suicide, while someone else who maybe is thinking about it or has ideations of it will be more compelled to do it. Media definitely helps to trigger this because, especially with social media, it's immediately in the news in some fashion. Contagion is very similar, where it's contagion and clusters are similar, where the contagion results in local clusters or copycats. So they're kind of the same. Recently, I think it was about 8-9 years ago, there was a cluster in Monmouth County in the Manasquan area, and resulted in several kids and a couple adults committing suicide. So that would be an example of a local cluster. So why kids do this? It's definitely puzzling. there are so many articles and no one can really pinpoint one reason, but there are definitely a lot of factors and risk factors involved that might compel or trigger a teenager to do this. So just a few causes, definitely not all causes, but just a few that are standouts. Could be an underlying mental health issues such as depression, exposure, or a victim of physical, emotional, sexual abuse. Fear, just fear of life, living in fear of change. Could be pressure, peer pressure, or family pressure. Changes are a big one, because adolescents, they're going through so many changes internally and hormonally. When there's some changes within the family or within their peer, if they move, if there's a divorce, that can definitely be a trigger. There could be mental health history in the family. They could just have a feeling of hopelessness where they just don't feel like anything will ever be okay. Stress, bullying, low self-esteem, self-doubt, a death in the family, substance abuse. So, and the list goes on and on and on. There's so many different reasons why a kid might be compelled to think about or attempt suicide. So social media is the latest thing that's being researched as far as influencing teens and how it is becoming more of an issue as for teens who are, depressed or contemplating suicide. So especially now with the pandemic, kids are more and more isolated, and with the use of technology, they think that they're being social, but they're really not, because it's so easy to type something in, because you don't have to be face to face. And then when they get face to face, it changes the dynamic. So these are just, I said 13 reasons why technology influences vulnerable teens. And the reason why I chose that subtitle is because a few years ago, there was a popular TV series that the kids were watching called 13 Reasons Why, which is about suicide pacts with these kids. So just a few things that could influence how social media influences vulnerable teens. It diminishes their self-confidence. They're always looking at all these stars or people, these influencers, they think they're all skinny kids, in shape kids, women, makeup videos, all kinds of stuff. And as a result, the kids are losing self-confidence in their own looks, whether they're fat, they're skinny, they're not pretty enough. Cyberbullying is a huge one. It's definitely a trend and a term that's coming up a lot more. It's so easy to send a Snapchat or a direct message and get other kids involved, and they think that once they do it, it's gone. But the fact is that it isn't. But it's so easy to bully someone via social media or the internet. There's unlimited exposure to graphic content. I mean, kids have no limits with this stuff. And unless parents enforce some sort of boundaries on their phone, and most don't really, the kids can just look up anything. And they do. Chat rooms, these kids can chat with all these strangers all the time. And one little clue within their picture or their chat can trigger people to either bully them or talk to them or find out where they are, influence them. Lack of real human contact, it's huge. It just causes isolation and more depression. It can create suicide pacts online. There's a lot of different sites for teens to find. There's how-to descriptions of suicide on YouTube and different other sites. Access to items. Kids could probably find poison or guns or all kinds of things and get different ideas. Just definitely media idealization from celebrities and musicians, movies, the TV series such as 13 Reasons Why. All of that sometimes glorifies it. There's self-harm videos that normalize suicide. There's extreme online communities that are pro-suicide. The list goes on and on and on. So the question is, what can we do? How can we, as counselors and social workers and teachers, substance abuse workers, help these kids or prevent this from happening, from prevent the trend from spiking even more? So early intervention is the biggest thing that can help prevent it. It starts at home and schools with peers. There's got to be a spreading of information and awareness to parents, teachers, communities. Um, they have to be aware of the warning signs that kids are displaying or the different triggers, the behavioral changes. They need to have access to the resources and know what's available. An increase of protective factors and a reduction of risk factors once you recognize kids that might be in danger. And it's absolutely critical to involve and mobilize participation and support of the families, schools, and the communities. Okay. And one thing that's really big is, eliminate the stigma of talking about it, not to glorify it, but it shouldn't be a topic that is a no topic in schools or in the counseling office, because kids need to talk about it. They, if a friend of theirs is experiencing thoughts, they need to feel okay about going to someone and talking about it. So this was a big thing that resonated with me. You need to, as counselors, as teachers, as parents, social workers, it's so important to really sincerely ask these children, how are they? How are you doing? And they always tell you they won't, but they need to know that somebody really wants to know how they are. And that gets me to this slide. This man, his name is Kevin Hines, and he jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge in the year 2000 when he was 19 years old. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and had suffered depression throughout a lot of his teenage years. And he made a documentary movie called Suicide: The Ripple Effect, which was shown at the Algonquin Theater a few years ago, and I had the privilege to watch. And it's definitely, I recommend it in high schools to be shown to the kids, to have a discussion at schools as a resource available. And it's pretty amazing what he went through. And that's where he said all he wanted was someone to ask him how he was doing. And now he travels the world, and he goes around spreading hope to people that are contemplating. He goes on suicide hotlines. He talks at schools. He is really just trying to inspire people to rethink their future and provide different coping skills. So they have, he and his wife have a foundation, and it's a pretty awesome resource. So if anyone's interested in the title of this slide, if you click on it, you can find the link to it. And there's just so many videos, and there's a 20-minute trailer to his documentary. There's just all kinds of resources, local, global, the things that they do, how you can help. Ideas to work with communities. It's just, this resource is pretty awesome for anyone who is looking to implement prevention strategies within a school, or use it as a resource within a guidance counselor office or whatever. Another great resource, is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And all of these resources all have the links in the title here. All right. This is it's free and confidential. They have an emotional support hotline 24/7. Every day of the year, there's someone working those phone lines. They also have a huge network of different local crisis centers, resources for parents, for teachers, for counselors, for teenagers. And it's really trying to build awareness and provide comprehensive resources. There's bilingual resources. There's, information about getting financial assistance if you need to, if you're interested in, maybe treatment centers or counseling and you don't have any insurance. So that's just an endless supply of information on this site. So this is another tool that is available for free. It's all on the internet, and it's called a toolkit for high schools. And it is great. It's very comprehensive. It's a huge resource. It's a document. That's I think about 230 pages. and it's really intended for schools to tap into. I found it a little overwhelming to navigate. I was familiar with it, but it does have a ton of guidance and facts and resources. It's got the whole referral plan for teachers and counselors if a student or a patient becomes, suicidal or has threatened that or stated that they are thinking about it. So it does have a lot of resources. It just takes a while to navigate. This is another website, and I really like this one because this one really promoted family and community togetherness. Not only does it have a lot of support links and resources for peers and education, but it's got calendars for every single county in New Jersey. It's got calendars of different things that are going on in the community. So, I mean, it could from anything from a tree lighting to, a beach clean or whatever it is. And it really promotes that. And I really thought that was kind of cool that they did that in addition to all the other resources that they provided. It's got bilingual resources, and it's got a lot of information about federal assistance too, because a lot of times when people need help, they don't have insurance, and a lot of these resources require that. So it's challenging if they need to go into some sort of inpatient or outpatient or after school program and don't have the funds. How do they get help? So it's very that easy to navigate. It's a great source for accessing prevention strategies and different resources. This place is kind of awesome. It's called High Focus, and there's 7 different centers in New Jersey, and there's also one in Connecticut. Uh, it is expensive, but for the most part, they deal with substance abuse for teenagers, but they also do a lot of mental health things for kids with emotional issues, mental health issues, and struggling with suicidal thoughts. So they offer transportation for the kids that are enrolled. They have a 10 to 12 week program for teens where they go. It's a day program. They're also now offering video teletherapy services with COVID and everything else. So they're offering that. They do accept health insurance, and they're willing to work with your financial situation. And they've been in New Jersey operating for over 20 years. They were the first in the state to offer psychiatric day programs and after-school programs for adolescents. So it's a really comprehensive treatment center available for kids that maybe require more diligent therapy, to stay safe in their situation. And those are just a few of them. I mean, are just endless resources to access if you're looking to, if you know someone that needs help, or if you're looking to get more information. There's designated screening services in New Jersey. These are counseling places and hospitals that will screen a kid or or a family member or a student for suicidal thoughts. There's the New Jersey Hope Hotline, which is another 24/7 hotline. The mobile response and crisis screening is kind of awesome. If there's a kid struggling or having an emotional crisis or suicidal thoughts, they like it says, it's mobile response. So they will come to you, and they will come to you, as often every day or a couple days a week, once a week, whatever it is. And when that time period's over, then they will refer you to another counselor, and that's free. Like, you don't need insurance, you don't need anything. They offer that service, and it's kind of awesome. And if you have a kid that's in a crisis, they come that night. So it's a really awesome resource. And this is kind of a popular one, Second Floor Youth Helpline. And that's really geared towards kids to access. A lot of times they'll come into schools and they will talk about their resources and what's available. And they give kids, folders and stickers and all kinds of stuff for them to have that, the 1-800 number to access. So there's just endless resources for kids, for parents, for counselors, for schools to access to help prevent and find more prevention strategies. Here are my references. And thanks for listening. I hope you learned something. If you have any other questions, you can find my email in the document. Thank you.